Everybody, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I didn't rehearse this, so I have no idea how long how long it is. So I don't know if we'll be in here 30 minutes or 3 hours and 30 minutes. We just don't know. Online people, can you hear me? Reply in the chat if you can hear me. I know you guys can hear me. I don't even think this microphone is working coming out of there, but I tend to speak rather loudly. So but if anybody is having trouble hearing me, just let me know and I'll adjust. Thank y'all for being here. To overcoming student barriers, right? I think that's something that's been a theme of this conference. It seems like I've sat on 3 different sessions that went over retention and barriers and things like that. And we kind of got into the weeds with a lot of it, but I don't think my approach is any different. But I do want to just highlight and spend some time talking about Amarillo College's approach to increasing student retention by removing student barriers. But I definitely want to hear from you guys as well. I want to know if you guys have something that's innovative that you're doing. Some of the work you're proud of doing as far as eliminating barriers. I want to hear it and I want to steal it. I want to be able to take it back and do it too. So that's part of the reason why I'm here today. So I want to introduce my buddy on today, Janet Neighbor. She is a career navigator at Amarillo College. She will be helping out with the presentation. I am Myron Sims. I'm the career pathways supervisor here at Amarillo College. Yeah, everybody online, y'all see Janet. That'll be the last time you see her. Hopefully, unless she does what she just did. So I'm the career pathway supervisor at Amarillo College in our AEL department. Been with AC for a little bit over a year. Last year's COABE was my first COABE. And then this year, of course, is my first time presenting here at COABE. I've presented at other conferences before, but so it's kind of a difficult, weird place because I'm speaking on behalf of Amarillo College and I don't feel like I've been there long enough to know. But I think we tried to compile some stuff together that is pretty interesting though. So I want to start out with a question. In your work in removing student barriers, what are you most proud of? What do you get from that? When you remove a barrier from, I know there's pride in just in removing the barrier, but on a dig a little deeper, and I just maybe a couple of responses, what are you most proud of in that process of removing barriers and helping students overcome those barriers and achieve success? Just give me a couple different responses. Raise your hand and speak, and I will Janet will get the microphone to you so the people online can hear you. If you want to, I can try and repeat it, but it may get a little hectic trying to pass it around. But what are you most proud of?
Empowering the students, that feeling that once I've removed that barrier, they know they can move forward. I've empowered them to take charge of their life.
So empowering them. It's great. Anybody else? Okay. So instead of like career navigation, it's more resource navigation. That's pretty neat because I think our navigators, well, everybody has to do a little bit of that resource navigation for our students, but it's mostly connected with our career navigator. They're usually directing that student to those resources. Anybody else?
My name is Daryl. I'm from Georgia.
Nice to meet you, Daryl.
Nice to meet you too. I think one of the biggest things when you eliminate these barriers, you're giving our students hope again. So a lot of students come from really, really tough times. So something that we do every day is remove barriers. Removing that one particular barrier may change that whole student's life. So I think we talked about earlier today about hope. I think you really giving that hope again when you help remove these barriers.
And that's definitely when we get toward the end of the presentation, I really want to dive into more of that because I think I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's the key. It's not just in removing the barrier, but anytime you remove something, you need to replace it with something. So if you're removing barriers and not creating hope, then there's still a barrier, probably the most important barrier. So we're going to get to so sensitivity and compassion. Someone wrote in the chat they're most proud of that piece of it, being able to. Have y'all found that everybody don't have that, even in this field? You know, even in this field, that sensitivity and compassion it may start out, but man, over time you're seeing students and you achieve a level of success. You can do it without even, and you become disconnected to the real work, and the sensitivity goes out the window. Your attention, not your attention span, but your tolerance level decreases, because sometimes kids show up with some foolishness, don't they? Right? And you got to really be connected to your sensitivities and your compassions in order to continue to meet these barriers. So I appreciate that. So I think we all can agree, all of our students, no matter where they're from, experience or have some of the same barriers, right? Financial, transportation, food insecurities, all of those things. Language barriers, definitely. Some cases it's, mental health and things like that, or
I think one of the biggest things that we notice in our program is the trust issues that they have, and building that relationship to where you can have them open up to what they need, and then we can provide those wraparound services.
Right.
But building that relationship from the time that they walk in that door is one of the biggest, to me, a key factor.
You said the most important thing, when they walk in the door. That's when it starts. It can't be when they finally get in class, right? It may be too late. They may already be soured, and they're just waiting on that instructor to say the wrong thing, or have to call in, and the next thing you know, they're out of there. But from the jump, when they come in the doors, that's when the work starts. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It starts earliest. It's early intervention, right? That's on the end. We are. So anything else in the chat?
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to if this will allow, well, it's not a clicker. I'm scrolling because this is that new age AI presentation. So we're just going to define key barriers, right? We're just going to talk about key barriers that Amarillo College has seen. And as I mentioned, it's going to be something that we're all relating to. We all are. And once we get into the barriers, if y'all have another barrier that's not mentioned here in these key barriers that Amarillo College tries to address, please shout it out, right? Like I said, at the end, we're going to talk more about on the personal level, or that barrier that is probably the most difficult to remove. We'll talk about that one, but if there are any that come up that we don't mention before then, you're more than welcome to shout it out. So we're going to define the key barriers affecting student retention. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Hi,
Well,
how are
hi,
you?
I'm good. Things, so I've been in the community college system before, but on a different, section. I was in student services, so adult ed is new to me. But, being an administrative assistant, I feel like, number one, I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to administrators, because they have big shoes to fill. But one thing that was the hardest thing for me was I always dressed professionally because I represented my director or my dean. So one of the things that my boss does is, I'm gonna need you to loose those heels, put on some jeans, because when students come in here and they look at you and they look at that, how you're dressed, that's kind of like, it makes them kind of not want to not approach you. Whereas if they feel like you're on their level, they're more open. And so that was a really hard thing for me, but I think that's very valuable.
It is.
I never saw that before.
It
What
is.
you said.
How important is representation too?
Well, on the flip side of that, I also teach in correction, and I had the opposite response. Just maybe about a month ago, one of the justice impacted students said, "Hey, I can't wait to put on my slacks and my heels and get my hair done. Oh, Miss Michelle, you look so cute today." So
It was a hard adjustment for me too.
I appreciate it.
In the back.
I agree with both ladies, and I
Uh-huh.
think I have been in both positions. But it's more about how you present yourself, not physically and how you look. It is more transformational how you treat people. And if you're on the other side of that conversation and somebody feels welcome by your presence, they want to become better than what you show. So I think go beyond how you look and how nice you take care of yourself or not.
Right.
It goes beyond more of how do I make you feel you belong, regardless of what is in front of us. I think that's quite powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cultural barriers. Anybody experience that? So I said representation matters, especially if you have a large ESL population, or even on the GED side as well. Those cultural barriers can be pretty difficult to address and to handle, and definitely can play a key in retention, because if they don't feel like they belong, they're not going to belong. They're going to belong somewhere else, right? So very, very important. So we're going to showcase Amarillo College's support systems, and we're going to hopefully provide some actionable strategies for overcoming these challenges. And I will say this before we get into AC's approach to removing barriers and increasing retention. All of our AEL, GED, and ESL students, they have access to everything at Amarillo College the regular college students have. And that has been, when I get to tell those students that, I said, nobody's going to know when you're walking around campus, nobody's going to know you're an AEL student. You're going to blend in with everybody. When you walk into the gym, nobody's going to say, oh, he's an AEL, because the only thing that's different is at that point, they're not taking college courses, but that's the goal. That's where we're trying to get them to. But they get student ID badges just like every other student. They have access to the gym. They have access to the library. They have access to all of the things that even help our college students remove barriers. So that is something I think I'm most proud of, that our college is really supportive of our program. On one, it's weird. Sometimes I feel like it's not intentional. I think it's almost by accident. Like, I think if the college, just like if they found out that our students had access to everything, they would remove it. It's just like a weird mix, because sometimes we feel misrepresented and underrepresented within the college, but at the same time, our students have access to all of these services. Does that make sense? Y'all see how something like that could happen? We know our students are supported, but sometimes it doesn't feel like the program is supported. Does that make sense? Is that accurate, my other Amarillo College people? Is that a thing, a feeling that we get? That may just be us being sensitive and being right, yeah.
We thought the thing about them saying those students,
Mm-hmm.
it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
The ones that we have in programs, they're typically, I mean, that's good, but the other ones that are not in programs yet are the ones that are kind of outliers.
Yeah. So let's get into some of Amarillo College's strategies, and I'm really open for all of the discussion. I mean, if you have a question or a comment that is off track, I don't care, because that's how I function too. So we are. I didn't necessarily come here to tell you what AC is doing. I really came to just have a conversation about what we're all doing, really, and what we all could do maybe even better. I just had to put it like this for the proposal so it could get accepted. But now that we're in the room, we got a little more flexibility. So when it comes to financial barriers, man, that's huge, right? You're talking to a student, and I mean, it comes out, right? And you'll see it sometimes when they walk in. Like, it's not necessarily even like a judging thing, but you can tell somebody has some financial issues, right? Some things that's going on. And then when you get to talk to them, if you are relational, those things will come out. But 56% of students who leave college cite financial difficulties, right? I'll ask this question here in a minute. But think about it, that's over half. It's a financial thing, or not, and it's not necessarily them not being able to afford college. It's them not being able to afford living. So college becomes something that's, it's not important when you got mouths to feed in that moment. And you know, and the crazy thing about it, college is designed to where you don't have to put you in a position where you don't have to do that. But in the immediate, getting the student to cross that barrier and providing that financial support, it can be a difficult thing. So the digital divide, college students lack reliable internet. We had a student, we enrolled this student into our, she co-enrolled, so she's in our GED program, and she enrolled into classes at Amarillo College, and she didn't have access to a computer. She didn't have access to reliable internet. And so you can't do your college work without that. Can you? I mean, you just can't. You're gonna be behind the 8 ball on day one. So Amarillo College will talk about what they're doing to address these challenges as well. And it's a really neat thing they're doing. Or 40% report inadequate technology. Anybody ever experienced bad internet service? When we moved into our building this past last spring, we will be in there working, and 5 minutes later, the internet is down for 10 minutes, then it's back up for 20 minutes. And when we got all of our classes back into the same building, and they started back up in spring too, just the technology issues that we had within our program, because we had moved and we had to do a lot of upgrades with our system. It was difficult for us to do our job. So I know it has to be difficult for our students. So these are real barriers. These are real things that when students come in and they're having these conversations with them, we have to take them seriously, because we know that the data backs that up. So personal responsibilities, man, you got mouths to feed. You got kids at home. You got a job that there's an institutional barrier, maybe because the class times and things that we offer is just not as flexible for you. And so I'll go ahead and ask this question now. When your students start into your program and for some reason they stop coming, as a provider, what is the first thought that pops into your head? Is it more along the lines of there's a barrier or something going on that I need to find out? Or is it, do our minds shift to, well, they just don't want it?
There's usually a barrier there.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
from obtaining.
That's why it's important for us to know this information, for us to know about these barriers and about the challenges that these students are facing. So we won't get into that mindset to where we lump every student who we can't retain, or a student who will start out the first 2 weeks and then we don't see them again for 4 weeks. We can't say, well, they just don't want it bad enough.
We even at intake, we had created a sheet
Mhm.
that is a needs, kind of a simple needs assessment. And we've gone through there and we've asked them about childcare, about transportation, about food, what else on there?
They need a social security card, have a
Yeah.
driver's license, or photo
Do they need a driver's license? Do they need a photo ID? What do they need?
Mhm.
And so we kind of tried to outline that, and that way we can kind of get a picture of where they're at.
Mhm.
So, and what we need to do on our end to help them get those things.
I think Amarillo College, it's a win-win situation. If you start to address these issues or these barriers, it's going to makes the college look good. So you're meeting students' needs and the students are performing better, and that helps your college. You have data that will back up your efforts, and that generates more money. You can ask more money. Your foundation can be confident in requesting or fundraising, because they know, hey, what we're doing, it really works. So, but look at this, student parents are 10 times less likely to complete their degree within 5 years compared to traditional students. Anybody, when you were in college, anybody have kids and have to go to college and raise their kids? Talk about how difficult that was, man.
I remember working 2 and 3 jobs, and I remember staying up all night, and at that time, this was back in the day when the internet wasn't a big thing. So I drove to college. I drove 70 miles one way to college
Mhm.
each day. And so had 3 miles at home to do. And so working, I cleaned houses on the weekends. I also had a cosmetology license, so I was cutting hair during the week and the evenings whenever I could. And then I took care of some accounting work for a company, so I had that income coming in. But it was tough to meet, even, I mean, to just to pay the bills. It was rough. And so when I have students that come in, I feel like that we really understand where they're at, because I've been there.
Mhm.
So,
And it's important to find the right time to share that story with your students too. Definitely. Anything in the chat?
Yeah, Jennifer asked why did they stop? What could we have changed?
So it's just always good to, when those students, when you're having retention issues, you have to look at institution first. You have to look at on the programmatic side of things, like what are we doing? Could we be better in our efforts? Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So I manage the ESL program for the college where I work for in North Carolina, and retention has a bigger chance when our teachers have a good rapport with the students. So that's part of what we teach our teachers, and we make sure that that's intentional. Secondly, my college is very small, but we have a foundation, and that money, every full-time employee for the college provides a donation to the foundation. And with that money, we pay daycare for ESL students. And secondly, I'm a social worker and I'm a ESL student from Canada. I'm from Colombia, but I did ESL in Canada. And I went through all the process and the difficulties of becoming a fluent English speaker. The point is that, understanding all that, I now manage the ESL program, but another thing that I find that is very good is to actually develop the directory for support resources in the area. And the most important part is your college buying in when it comes to non-traditional students? If your college as an institution, you keep talking about institutions, but if my college, the institution I work for, is no valuing the non-traditional students, that internal paradigm has to be studied and analyzed. It's very important that we have those conversations internally with our college, because although we always talk about money doesn't always resolve these issues if we think out of the box. And so I'm developing a resource directory for our students to answer questions like gas. We help pay for rent and gas and food. We have food pantries. So there are many ways you can collaborate with and partner up with the community to get things done, because the institution cannot always answer those questions.
Right.
And until we get the full institution involved, and we know there are bureaucracy happening anyway, it's important that we, as part of those non-traditional groups, help to figure out what the ways around it. It's more about thinking out of the box, more than always waiting for the institution to have a solution.
Definitely. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. No, you're fine. You're fine. You can interrupt me anytime. I would rather somebody else is talking other than me. So let's look at financial support systems. What Amarillo College does, I think is pretty amazing. So, like I said, this is something that all of our AEL students have access to. So it's really, it's a really exciting thing to talk about. So emergency funds, so immediate system assistance for students in crisis. Y'all have students in crisis. They show up homeless, or they are about to be homeless. They show up hungry, or when they go home, they're gonna be hungry. So a lot of the issues that Amarillo College and you guys as well, a lot of the issues y'all are addressing are emergency issues. To some extent, I mean, they very well could be life or death. I hate to make it sound like that, but to the student, it definitely may feel like that. So here's the thing too. Have y'all had students come in and everything is an emergency to them, or they're so heightened because of their lack of resources? They come in on 10. They come in on edge, and so everything is an immediate thing. So they don't have time for you to say, "Hey, let me call you back," or "Let me get back to you." They won't, even though that has to happen, they don't understand that. So even in our conversations with our students about, hey, there's a process and I need you to understand, you may have to give them some breathing techniques. You may have to talk them off the ledge, but that's where your skill comes in. That's where you like it's not always about money, right? Sometimes they just need somebody to calm them down and let them know, hey, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna take care of you. We're gonna get you the help you need. So emergency assistance, targeted scholarships, and then our foundation raises $3.2 million strictly for student assistance. Go ahead, ma'am.
Curious as to where the emergency funds come from. I mean, are they donations that your college gets, or?
Our foundation raises, I mean, they have overall fundraising goals, but for student assistance, it's about 3.2 million. So part of their ask, that's what they do, and they allot a certain amount of money just for student assistance that covers these areas. So responding within 24 hours is critical. That your response time is where it needs to be. So about 500 students every year, they're receiving these types of funds, much needed funds. I had just started working in AEL, and there was a situation that was brought to me. There was a student who she had co-enrolled, and I think I'm gonna tell you my perspective. I think there was a language barrier when we were explaining to her what would happen if she had to drop that class. She ended up dropping the class, and so she had a balance. Of course, AEL funds, you can't pay that balance. And so I went to the foundation and advocated on behalf of the student. I think I had been at AC maybe 3 weeks, and I said, this student has a $600 hold on her account. Can you give her a scholarship so she can get back in school, get a second chance? And the foundation, without hesitation, I was able to go and talk directly to the director of the foundation. I had a face-to-face conversation with her. And within a day, that money was applied to that student's account, and she was able to get back in school. So Amarillo College is legit. They are legit in the efforts and the links they go to. So retention sensitive demographics. This is one thing. It seems like nowadays you got to be careful how you say certain stuff and talk about what populations and what people you're trying to help. And the good thing about Amarillo College, it's so student focused. It's so student focused that if you need the help, you're going to get it. It doesn't matter what color you are, what your demographic is, right? Because they're not trying to target certain students. They're trying to target every student that needs assistance. So, and you'll hit who really needs the assistance. You don't have to play these games with the wording and things like that. You can just keep doing, what was it? You know, earlier last year, they were talking about, removing that diversity language from all of that stuff, and didn't phase Amarillo College one bit. They put out a statement and said, this is not something that we need to be worried about as staff. They're going to continue to do what they do. You just change the wording, but it doesn't change what your mission is, right? So having targeted scholarships, filling critical gaps in the traditional funding model, right? There's just extra money available for students who need it. And I think our biggest issue now is AC does so much for our students. It's kind of hard to even give all of that information to our students. We'll give as much as we can, and then we're sending them to the website where they can see it all, or we're connecting them with the Advocacy and Resource Center where they can provide a lot of that legwork, because it is a lot of information. So let's see. So we have I mentioned the ARC. It's our Student Advocacy and Resource Center. So this is the hub of meeting or addressing the barriers of our students. This is where our students are finding the majority of their resources. So if it's something that Amarillo College is not providing, the ARC has all of these community partners they can send the student to. Just last week, I worked for Buckner Children and Family Services before I started at Amarillo College, and they have a program for single parents who are in college. And one of our AEL students, she had co-enrolled and she was living in the Salvation Army. And I said, hey, I know a place. And the only reason I was able to connect it in the moment, I just wasn't thinking about Buckner having that program. But I had seen an email where Buckner, that Family Pathways program, they were coming to Amarillo College to set up a booth to meet with students, to talk to students about the program they offered. And I just happened to see the email, and then 10 minutes later, this student is walking into my office from the Salvation Army. I think that's a God thing. Like that was fate. And I told her about that, and then in 2 days, she's asking me for a letter of recommendation so she can get into that program. So the ARC taps into resources that Amarillo College has in-house, and they also tap into all of the community partnerships and relationships they've cultivated in the community. So we have a food pantry. Anybody else's program your students have access to a food pantry? How important is that?
It's huge. They're not eating and taking care of their bodies. They're not gonna learn. So the food is huge.
But support for the food pantry seemed to be more free flowing during the pandemic and right after. Now it seems like there are less and less folks, organizations, et cetera, willing to donate to the food pantry. So, and I'm not sure why it was pandemic specific, but it seems like that funding and those resources are certainly dwindling at this point in time.
I think around that time was when Amarillo College really started to take a different approach to address student retention. It was the perfect time. I mean, during that time, it was a mindset shift, and you were able to kind of reset on how you provided services, and you were kind of forced to. And then the brilliant minds that came from that, you came out of COVID with a whole new outlook and a whole new way to provide programming. So the housing assistance is important. Go ahead, man.
Yes, I work in elementary school. We are from Kentucky, my friend. And in our school, every Friday we send a bag, like a Kroger or supermarket bag with a lot of snacks. So kids can go home during the weekend and eat snacks. And, so it's a way to help them to, have something to eat during the weekends. Because our school population is 48% of the school population is Latino. Even though that we're from Kentucky, a lot of families are moving from Florida or other states. And so we are from Lexington, Kentucky, and our school is overpopulated already. We don't have one single space no more, but we keep receiving them. So that's a way that we, provide support for the families. But also we are trying to implement different programs in academics to help, the needs of the families and the students.
Thank you for that. Any comment in the chat?
Yeah, just a lot of positive feedback, students asking for letters of recommendation after they complete the program at Jennifer's institution. So that's awesome.
So the housing, go ahead.
These are all great resources. In Arizona, I will say it is a challenge providing these type of services, especially when funding is always an issue. Either we would have a partnership, like right now with St. Mary's, but we don't have another partnership that can supplement the salary of having somebody running it. and there's really not many people wanting to volunteer or provide that service for free. Even when we have positions available, people are not really applying. So, I mean, we also provide housing assistance, but that's also another issue of the funding that, grant is gonna be coming to an end, and we don't know if we're gonna get that renewed or not. I just feel like it's really good when you have all these resources, but it's very challenging when you have it and then you no longer have it. And the students are kind of difficult. They let others know. And the moment you tell them, no, we don't have it, it takes a really long time to convince them that we have it and to take it into starting from zero.
So anybody else in that situation where maybe you were able to provide a service and then you weren't, and the students felt that impact? That's has to be a tough situation. And anybody else struggling with volunteers?
Yeah, we have that same issue where we are, because we're also a nonprofit, and our entire state, all of our AEL is through nonprofits. So everything that you guys do, we do with partner agencies in our community. But as certain funding goes away or certain opportunities, like during COVID, they had the whole thing where because in Vermont, housing across the board is an issue. It's not enough homes for Vermonters, let alone all the new Vermonters and new Americans that are coming in. And so they were paying for hotel rooms, but then that went away after COVID was gone. So then how do we still provide that service now? And so other nonprofits are coming in, and it's not housed in one place, and we have to understand dozens of different systems to help any given student find those supports to be able to still have access to everything that we could possibly try to offer. There is no one-stop shop in a small rural state like ours. We do everything we can to understand what supports we do have in our communities and try to fill the gaps when we can. And just understanding where the students are coming from, because we understand that, you know, they could be on the street right now.
I saw a couple of hands up back there. Try to go in order, hopefully.
Well, I was gonna say to that, and specifically, I'm with Dallas College, and I think we, especially after the pandemic, and then, you know, we became one college from 7 different institutions and one over the whole county, that made us approach outreach and support to the students really differently. I mainly focus on outreach and marketing, and what I found to help the most and what has been able to maintain that feeling of safety to students, to see the college as a hub for resources, is to present it that way. Just the hub, not necessarily that we have the housing, that we have the food, that we have everything, but we'll have the network and we'll have the contacts, and a lot of the resources that we provide now. We have food pantries at all of our locations. We have clothes closets, but even when we present it, especially the clothes closets, you know, if it's available, we'll call different locations. Like, we present it to them in a way that, you know, we provide you what we have available, and this is our resource. And if we don't have it, we try to open up the network of partners and resources in the county and the community that can help support that. So we become more of a connector and a provider. That is what they were saying, that kind of helps relieve that burden of maintaining.
My question was in regards to, when you mentioned the needs assessment and you have a targeted scholarship. So I was just wondering, you know, how do you identify the needs if the student isn't comfortable coming forward to the hub or the, you know, resource location for that support?
We are in the process of, so we switched over to Salesforce middle of 2024, and creating a needs assessment within that. And depending on the student's response, we're going to be able to, on their student profile in Salesforce, the links to those resources will show up on their student profile based on the needs assessment. Because you're right, some students, they won't feel comfortable having a conversation with an adult or a navigator or somebody about those issues, but being able to create a Google sheet or some kind of needs assessment where once we get that information, it's an automatic thing within Salesforce that's going to show up on their student portal with the link and the phone number and the steps needed to apply for those funds or food pantry or whatever the case may be. So
That the students.
the students will have a student portal on their Salesforce. So when they log in, if they log in, they will be able to see. Hopefully that's coming sometime in the near future.
That like questionnaire y'all create.
That's what we are doing. We're going to create that and then have all of that. Mhm. Is it fully, are y'all fully implemented with it yet? How deep? Right. It's a lot. Hmm.
Yes, and our, like events and community partners, it's a whole other application of it, but that was very important, because I work a lot with our basic needs
Hmm.
that provides those services, and we actually have like weekly sessions for enrollment.
Hmm.
And they always come with a box of food, and they say, everybody that shows up can go home with a box of food, and that's one of the things that kind of break down the barrier. A lot of people are like, oh, no, I don't, like you're saying, there's, they don't want to feel shame
Mhm.
receiving something.
Hmm.
So I always end up saying, hey, it's here, take it and share it with somebody else, and they end up realizing, oh, well, maybe this can help me. And they say, you know, they provide a lot of snacks for the students in the middle to get from one class to another. So it kind of breaks down how to see that, but I think that's a super cool idea to implement.
Hopefully by next COAB we'll have we'll have it implemented. But here's the cool thing we're doing with to address this digital divide. Y'all, it's been on the screen for a minute. Our students can get access to cell phones with service. Access, they can rent a laptop for $5 for the semester. It's pretty, and they can what I read somewhere else about the details of that when I actually went to the link to look at that. But just think about that. You know, we said that's one of their biggest barriers: access to quality internet or adequate internet, access to a cell phone coverage and things like that. If you may not have it. It seems like everybody and their mama have cell phones now, but there's still some people who don't. There's still some people who don't have access, sir, in the back. Mhm.
98% return renewal rate. How do you do that? 'Cause
I'd have to ask the college about that. I'm not sure how they achieve that.
that's the biggest fear is
Yeah.
get somebody enrolled,
Mhm.
$5 laptop,
Yeah.
$100 out of it, gone.
Yeah. Yep. Of course, I think it may be also maybe tied into you don't turn it in, you got a hold on your account. You can't come back, you know, so Mhm. yeah, you're not able to enroll. So that may be part of how they achieve that. So somebody else had their hand up. Okay, and then after and with you next. The foundation. Yes, the college did that. Yes, none of that. No, that's why I'm so thankful for the college because your adult ed funds, you can't really pay for any of those kinds of things. So the college, we've been blessed to be integrated into the college. We have our own building at the college. We're not stuck on a floor blending in. Like we have our own dedicated building at the college where all of our ESL GD classes, all of our staff, we're all in one building. So just the students having that easy access is major as well. So ma'am, you got a comment?
I have the same question, but about.
Okay.
the-
Okay, all right. Ma'am.
I'm from South Carolina, and we are set up a little bit differently under we are under our K-12
Mhm.
system. Our students are not K-12 students though.
Right.
however, So, we are one-to-one district, blah, blah, blah. What we've landed on is that we get the recycled ones that when the school district is going to refresh at one of the local school, you know, whatever level they're doing, elementary, middle or high, we end up with the recycled ones. And it's easier for us because they don't need to load those computers with all of the technology that's a part of the district. You just refresh them and reimage them. And so it's easier for us to loan out. In all honesty, we've not had a lot of difficulty getting them back, but the ones that we lose, they're Chromebooks, they're not fancy pants or anything, so it's.
Yeah,
it's just a-
I know AC is not giving out the top of the line. So, and I think they just pretty much have the basic operation. So, but it's still it still is providing that access, removing that barrier. So, so the other piece of it too. So this one kind of works because a lot of our AEL students, they're not as connected to the resources as they should be. And that may be partly on us, maybe getting our students more connected and utilizing those resources a lot more. But this piece right here, this is where our students utilize these resources more than any other resources. So AC is using these predictive analytics. What is it? Is it my one? It's not my one flow, is it? No. Watermark. Watermark has some predictive analytics they use, and when you're looking at a student's portal, it shows their I can't remember what it's called, but it'll have a success rate bar or likelihood of success bar, depending on your grade, depending on your attendance, depending on these things. You as advisors, teachers, navigators, career services people, you can go in and look at a student and it'll tell you if this student is likely to finish and stay in school or not. And if you see that bar turn yellow or red or orange, you're having a conversation. You're picking up the phone, reaching out to them. Maybe even before, because a lot of times, y'all know this, working with this population, if you call them, there's a good chance that phone is disconnected. And here's the tough part about retention. When we don't get it right, when students slip through the cracks, we're at their mercy. We won't see that student again until that student wants to be seen, right? So it's important that we are connecting students with resources. It's important that we are establishing and providing meaningful relationships with those students, so they'll have somebody that they can say, well, if I'm not there, so-and-so is going to be wondering and worried about where I'm at. So maybe I'll need to reach out to my navigator and say, hey, my work schedule changed. Is there a way I can enroll in the evening classes? Or do you have an online distance learning option? Instead of them just ghosting you. If they don't have a relationship with anybody at the school, you're getting ghosted, right? And you're going to try to reach out to them and they got a whole new phone number. But they're using their text now number and they're not giving that to you before they leave. So it's really, really important that we are proactive instead of reactive when it comes to meeting these barriers. So our tutoring network, our GED ESL students have access to Amarillo College's tutoring center, and they have very, very flexible hours. They have staff that can tutor in specific subjects. They have general tutors, so they have everything a student needs if they're struggling academically. I tell my students all the time, especially the co-enrolled students, I say, you don't have to be an A student. You just have to be a student, right? You just have to be a student. I mean, and I say the same energy and effort you're putting into coming to your AEL classes, and if you're needing help, you're asking your instructor, or if you are going to the tutoring center to help study for your GED, math or science or a portion of the test, I say you're gonna have to do that same thing in college. Like nothing changes. So just establishing in their minds, like, because they have perceptions about what college is. And they go into it thinking that it's something they can achieve. And they'll either go into it And the minute it gets difficult, what are they doing? They're leaving, or they're saying, man, I can't do that. And I say, well, you're already doing it. You're coming to a college campus every day. At the same time, these college students are. So you're just not taking college classes. That's the only difference. And when you start taking college classes, when you need help, just like a college student, you better take your butt to the tutoring center. Like, I don't say it to them like that. But that's what has to happen. Like nothing changes, but we establish that within our students. And we're giving them that confidence. We're letting them know, hey, this is something you can do because you're already doing it. Ma'am?
I'm just curious, are you not paying adult ed teachers to do that?
To do what?
Take care of their needs while they're working on how the patient's needs.
Yes.
So then why would you want to take that time from your student? Your student working with your teacher that you're paying to send them to the college.
It's other access. And so within our AEL program, here's why we send a lot of our students to the tutoring center, because some students come in and they don't have the availability for class, and they may just need 2 subjects to be passed. So they go to the tutoring center and they get those contact hours at the tutoring center. They're logging in under Career Ready U/GED. We're able to count those hours, and we only offer English and math. So they can go to the tutoring center and not only get tutored for English and math, but also for science and social studies. But thank you for that question. So we use GoTrack, and the students will log in with their student ID. Every student has their Amarillo College student ID. They log in, they select what they're there for, Career Ready GED services, GED prep testing, or whatever. And that system, we're able to pull that, run that report at the end of the week. And it has if they've done it the right way, we're able to pull that and upload that into Teams and track all of that. So it's pretty neat. GoTrack. Mm-hmm. Yes. So how do you connect your organization with high schools? Through a career readiness workshop? Did you invite families? I'm not sure what they're asking.
We work with, we do a middle high college awareness program. By college. To talk specific families or EL families, the Latino culture sometimes are afraid because of the cost of college. They don't know how is the system. So, I think they need, and the families need information about how is the path. So they are not afraid that their kids going to college instead of going directly to workforce. So that's my question. How do you connect with high school?
So within our AEL program, we don't do that legwork. The college does that. They have within our marketing department, they're going to events. They are inviting students to campus, and they're having those conversations with students and parents and teachers and counselors to let them know all of that stuff. So we usually, as far as when we get young people, they're usually court-ordered students. They'll come in through our system we have with Randall County. So if they're young like that, that's how we're connecting or having any kind of contact with high school students. There are other programs in Amarillo that are more connected with the high school GED students, those type situations. So we try not to step on toes, and we let other service providers target that population, and so to speak. So we are coming up on 15 minutes left, and I really want to get to my last piece. So but we know logistical challenges, transportation issues, life barrier withdrawals. Look at that, 47% reduction since implementing these programs. Flexible scheduling, transportation. So any of our students with a student ID can ride the city bus unlimited in Amarillo. They can go wherever they want to go. It doesn't even have to just be back and forth to school. They can take it anywhere they need to go. So a lot of our students don't, you know, you got Uber and all that, but Uber is expensive, right? So I say, hey, we don't, if you want to get to class, the ARC may provide that kind of stuff, but we tell them, hey, first thing, you need to learn that bus system. And we pass out the bus routes. There's a route that comes to, you can get to Amarillo College through the bus system. So it's a really helpful, but I don't know how much our students value it, but it's something that is offered. The flexible scheduling. So, you know, Amarillo College, since 2015, they've been doing the 8-week schedule. And all of our GED and ESL classes are on that same schedule. We got fall 1, fall 2, spring 1, spring 2, summer 1, and summer 2, where we're offering our classes, because the goal is to really treat them like college students and get them prepared for college. I was in a college prep program when I was in high school, and it was a game changer, because you go into college with a little more confidence. You're knowing how to navigate things. You're knowing how to use Blackboard. All of the students, they have access to Blackboard. They do their work within Blackboard or within Aztec or Burlington, those kinds of things. So really getting them prepared for life after or while they are working on the GED. So the flexible scheduling, evening classes, weekend, those kinds of things. The tutoring services are offered on the weekend as well. Childcare. We have like a 200 kid wait list on the childcare, so it's available, but I mean, it's good luck. But we do, like with our ESL students, and even on the college level, you know, you can bring your kid to class. I said, hey, you better bring that girl to class with you. And they said, well, what if they start crying? Then you step out. Don't sit in the class and let the student cry, but don't think that you can't bring your student to class. If you need to bring your student to class, you bring your student to class. That's on the college level and in our AEL classes. I see it all the time.
That's an insurance issue, like in my state, you cannot bring your kid to class in college, so that might be.
Yeah, it's a rare occurrence, but it definitely does happen. They'll bring their kid. I mean, we had one student, I believe they were living in a shelter, and she would find transportation to get up there, and every day she came up there, she had her baby. Who was gonna watch her baby? She's living in a shelter. Newborn baby. What? I mean, and she was putting that effort in to come to class. So, you know, I'm just glad that flexibility is there. And we mentioned the food program, the food pantry. Okay, I'm sorry, man. I know, I'm sorry.
Like that, unless it's not the technology that provides, but why not the flexibility of allowing that person to maybe do a virtual session that day or those days that childcare or someone to take care of the child is not available? Because, you know, the other part of that to me is, what about, you know, the learning environment? Because you talk about, you know, having an environment that supports learning. I mean, I can see where that also create a learning experience.
Absolutely.
So,
Mhm.
you know, that would be
Absolutely.
the challenge that I would think about, because like you talked about earlier, those other people that are there on time, and now these people that you gotta go back and repeat things for, and now you're punishing them. It's kind of the same sort of thing. So how do you address that?
So we do have virtual options. Students do have the option to do that. But then it goes back to their access to the digital stuff. So we try to provide whatever way the student wants to address that issue, if it's a childcare issue or if it's whatever. If they are comfortable and more comfortable bringing their student to class. Now, of course, if the kid is being disruptive and it's a learning environment issue, then we will address that. But I haven't even seen that be an issue. For the most part, their kids are pretty well behaved, except for when they come into my office. But so yeah, we do provide those other options, you know, online, or I know our math teacher, she is live with her class, with all of her math classes. So you have that option either way. So let's look at the impact, and then I got a video we want to show y'all. We're gonna have a quick little conversation about that, and then we will wrap up. But financial support, we're looking at about an 18% increase in retention when we're providing these financial supports for students. Through the ARC, the students who access those services, we're talking about a 22%. So just looking at this graph, you can see the increase in retention rates based on the students who are accessing these and utilizing these services. So went up 17 points in retention rates, and graduation rate went up, what, 22 points over a 5-year period. And that was, like I said, that was around the time that they really started looking at what they could do differently to address the retention issue. And these are coordinated, like these are not isolated things that we do. All of this stuff, it wasn't looked at, well, they didn't just start and say, well, we need to start providing childcare. They looked at the whole gamut and didn't just start with one and expand. They looked at everything that they could do to address the student retention issue. So look at this, 210% higher persistence rate for students using multiple services. Why do you think that is? What does that tell you?
Students need multiple services.
Exactly. It's simple, right? It's simple. And being able to connect those students to multiple services, you're able to see those rates really increase. So anybody know who this guy is? Anybody seen this movie? The Wiz? So some of y'all know what I'm about to show y'all, but I don't know if you've ever looked at your work with these students through this lens. So let's look at it real fast. I'm gonna do the beginning. We're gonna skip the song because we don't have time, and then we'll catch the end of it. But I wanna hear some feedback from some folks. So hopefully the audio will work. What? Sign to confirm you're not a bot. What? Oh my gosh. Let me just. Wow. I'm gonna cry if I'm not able to show y'all. It's spelled that way too. Exactly. Mhm.
You were talking earlier about, not having like technology resources like, tablets and things like that. I would say keep in mind organizations like Amazon that will provide you with, items like that. So just make sure that you tap into, like Amazon, and they will provide you with technology at a cost. So that is definitely, a good partner that you can tap into. And then the other thing, just listening to some of you saying about funding and things like that. You know, we've been so accustomed, to, public funds. And, I've always been one that I would, I always said that I would never establish my business where it's just I rely on state or federal funds, because if that ever rise up, something happens like what we are, could just potentially facing now, then it just shut things completely down. So making sure that you're aware of all the private opportunities that are around you, that sometimes that you didn't even think that were there.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be, it sounds like I live in states where I come from, the construction industry, we're very good stewards of the community, and most large construction companies, they have foundations. So I would encourage all of you to do your due diligence and research, those organizations, and see what relationships and partnerships that you can establish with them, because in the state of Texas, which is the home state of a lot of major construction companies, they have foundations and they support things like what you're doing. So I would challenge all of you to look into that.
Thank you for that.
And so
Okay.
I know these things exist, and so I'm listening to the things that you're saying, and I think that's probably gonna be untapped resources.
Thank you for that. Y'all hear that? Y'all better listen. So oh my gosh. Yeah. So the biggest barrier our students face is that mental barrier. The lack of belief in themselves. Lack of because I'm not gonna get to this video. So let's have that conversation. So if we've seen this, Michael Jackson is playing the Scarecrow, and he's locked into his condition. He's locked into how his life is. And he gets reinforcements every day from the crows. It was a role reversal going on. He's supposed to be scaring the crows. He's supposed to be in control of the situation. But the scarecrows messed with his mind so much, he believed that where he was where he was supposed to be. Even though he knew he had sense, even though he knew he had talent, he allowed for the crows. And I look at the crows as barriers our students face that gets into your head. Because I don't have adequate resources, because I don't have my GED, because I don't know the English language, because I don't speak as well as those around me. Because I can't provide for my family. That stuff gets in your head. It messes with you. Even people who got it together, when that stuff starts happening, it messes with your head. So imagine with our students. Our students have a lot of scarecrows, right? And then Diana Ross comes along. Young Diana, boy, she was young Diana. She comes along, and I see her as, that's us. And she starts pouring into this young man. But before she started pouring into him, she had to get rid of them crows. She said, the first thing I need to do is get these crows out of here. Got them crows out of there. Then she could started to do the real work. The real work was, now that I got your food insecurities taken care of, let's work on this. Because it takes a while to recover from that stuff. Because it locks you into a place, and they need their instructor, they need their navigator, they need their director, they need their coordinators, they need the tutoring center, they need other resources, people to pour into them and get them out of. And I mentioned the part where Michael Jackson, he was brilliant. In this, these students have talent. It's just so far tucked in. And who's going to pull that out? Us. Obviously, it's there. Obviously, the desires are, when my students come in, I say, hey, you've done the hardest part, showing up, recognizing, hey, I want to better my life. But man, life keeps on lifing. And we keep on pouring. We keep shooing scarecrows away. And we keep pouring into what we know is in, or what we should be believing is in every one of our students. You're not believing that every student is capable, you need another job. It's just true. We have to believe every one of our students is capable of achieving what they believe is success.
I'm gonna take a step farther.
Okay.
I want you to think about it like this. Think about people as being like bank accounts. You know what happens when you make deposits in your account?
Mm-hmm.
That account is broke. If you don't make deposits, if you make withdrawals, then that account starts to swindle down. Eventually, when you just continue to just do that, it's gonna eventually close and it just shuts down. And people are like bank accounts. If you don't see the human spirit, if you don't make deposits in them, they're not going to grow, and you cannot keep them open. We should be in the business of growing and developing people, and we should be keeping those accounts open. And that is what our our goals are is to make sure that we feed the human spirit and remember who is your greatest asset? It's your people. And sometimes, even at our role, at our level, we sometimes forget about that asset. We cannot forget about that asset. It's not throwing people off the bus. Sometimes you have to put on a different seat of the bus. But you gotta find a way to work with them and understand the chemistry that they bring to you. You have to take the time to get to know the people because you gotta know the chemistry. And everybody can't be managed the same way. They're looking at you as being leaders. You've got people that you look to as leaders. What are some of the qualities and characteristics? And that's what they come to you to class every day. Because if they're showing up, even with their problems and their trouble days, they are hungry. They're hungry for something. They're short for a reason. And they're coming to you to feed them, to get that spirit what they're looking for. And I think, thinking about it as if they are bank accounts and growing those accounts, keeping those accounts open, don't shut it down. Even because thank you for showing up on time today. Thank you for just coming today. That is feeding that human spirit. And they don't hear that and they look to us to be those individuals that will model those behaviors because they don't get it anywhere else. They come for that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Thank all of y'all for your attentiveness and your comments and feedback. Y'all be blessed. Thank you.